Categories are, that's a globalist. Next up, 9/11, followed by famous fentanyl overdose deaths. Then we've got It's a Man Baby. Finally, we've got What a Fag. Notice F-A-G is in quotations there. Don, we'll start with you.
Let's try fag for $400, Alex.
Harry Sisson, an online content creator.
What is a massive fucking faggot?
That's it. Don, you've got the board.
Let's go fag for $600, Alex.
California Governor Gavin Newsom.
What is a total fag?
Oh, so close, but not quite there. Yes. Alex?
What is a raging faggot?
Raging indeed. Alex, go ahead and choose the next category.
Let's do famous fentanyl overdose deaths for 1,000.
Hey, that's not a real $20 bill. This random criminal became the face of a George Soros color revolution in 2020.
Who is St. Floyd?
I'm checking with the judges, and yes, St. Floyd or George Floyd both work here. Alex, next category, please.
Let's go with It's a Man Baby for 1,000.
Daily double. Alex, what would you like to wager on this one?
So let's make it a true daily double, Alex.
This former First Lady is built like a linebacker, and many have suggested she is actually a he.
Oh boy, who is Big Mike?
Big Mike or Michelle Obama. Absolute pythons for arms, and maybe one in her pants as well. Alex, you've got control. Go ahead.
What the heck? What is that? What is that? What was that? That was wrong. That was wrong. It was the wrong clip. I apologize. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the following program. I am your host, Joe Neiman, aka Good Lawgic. Hope you had a phenomenal weekend. If you're wondering about mine, which I don't know why you would be, but you might be, I guess, there's one or two stalkers out there. It kind of was really, really nice until, I don't know what happened in football. We won't talk about this week. This was bad. Very, very poor decision making on my part. Painful stuff. Anyhow, but all in all, God willing, I'll bounce back. Not worried about that. We have elections that are next week. Lady Logic and I went out and did our early voting. It's true. We did it today. I already voted. You can't, there's no point to petitioning me for my vote any longer because, I'm done till 2022. I'm done. We went out there. We did the early voting. There was 4 people sitting there by the counters and 2 of us. There was no one there. I am a big fan of early voting. Yeah, no, that's good. You get it. You're done. I got my little printout thing there. Whatever. I'll tell you right now, I voted for Jack Ciattarelli. I did. Yeah. Amongst others. But yeah, definitely don't want, what's her name? Mikey, whatever stupid name that is. That's not even, I don't know why. How do you think you're a girl or something? I don't know what's happening there. But yes, bottom line is we voted. I even got my little I voted sticker, which I guess is the incentive. Do I still have it? Did I? I don't know if I still have it or not, but I got a little I voted sticker. So, it's true. It has to be factual. It's definitely factual. There was this guy, this black guy who was out there who, right outside, young man, I later learned he was 19, who approached us outside of the voting station there in the library, and he was telling me he's running for the school board. And I said, why should I vote for you? So he started talking about how he's hoping to implement some changes and get some reforms where they're going to actually try and get more programs that are going to actually teach kids how to accomplish something, how to actually get something done. So it could be cosmetology or graphic design or something like that, but they actually had come out of high school with skills. I was like, wow, you're speaking my language here. You're really speaking my language. So I said, okay, how do you feel about the whole book issue? You know, banning books. What's your take on that? So he said none of that should be for like elementary school, but he's much more forgiving on high school kids. Wasn't crazy about that, but he was 19 and he was sufficiently ambitious that he's running to be on the school board and standing outside trying to like make his dream happen. You know, it's not like he needs that many votes. So I was like, all right, you got our vote. But then I came outside, then I went inside, and I'm not voting for a school. I was like, I don't know where I'm voting for this kid. I don't know where I'm voting for him. What was his name? He had an unusual name, like, I don't know, Raga. He had an unusual first name. Well, vote for him. He's a good guy. If you find him, I'm going to find it. I'm going to find it. This was him. Alias Ragsdale. Yeah, that was him. But alas, I'm not in his district. That's what we figured out. But I was very impressed. I was very impressed with the youth that he's out there. He wants to be on the school board. He was, you know, and like he's like really trying to make it happen. He's not just throwing his name out there, but he's standing there. That's not a fun thing to do, to be standing there for early voting, but he is standing there all day. So God bless. And some of his perspectives I wholly endorse. I told him how I've told my audience over and over again. I told him I'm a podcaster, and I tell my audience all the time that college is a scam. And it is. And it is. I need to just call out here. Century Bro. God bless you, brother. Hitting me with 100. Just bam, out of the gates, saying thanks for coming in here. And I say, you're welcome. I say, thank you. Thank you for the very, very kind appreciation that really Century Bro he just drops the money. No, there's never a comment. I feel as if he's like the mystery man. Like, I want to know more. What's his story? I appreciate it, definitely. I'm not looking to pry, but it's like eventually I'm going to get a comment from Century Bro. But even if he never wants to, he just wants to express his gratitude. I say thank you. Thank you very much. I'll mail my New York vote to you. Drop it off for me. Don't even get me started. Don't even get me started. I'm not first and foremost, I'm not going there. I'm not going to New York. I have zero ambition of being in New York anytime in the next week. That's not happening. You still registered to vote in New York? We're going to talk about, there's a lot that I want to talk to you about. A lot that we need to talk about. We're going to talk about the voter registration process in California, and all sorts of wacky stuff with respect to their election, and Gavin Newsom having a whole spiff as to like what kind of upbringing he actually had. And then I've got a lot on Zohran Mamdani. Plus, I want to talk to you about these rabbis who are supporting Zohran. And I have some thoughts. I have a lot of thoughts. I have a lot of thoughts on that. I'm going to do my best not to rant. That's like my new. I know that doesn't sound like it's a good thing for business model for me to stop ranting. I think a lot of you actually like my rants a lot, and I just don't know if it's good for my. I don't know, but I got lots to talk about. I got lots to talk about with respect to that. Also, Zohran had this whole little conflict here where he basically was crying, talking about, well, near tears. He couldn't actually squirt out any, but he looked near tears as he talked about his aunt and her struggles post 9/11, his Muslim aunt. So we're going to talk about that. And plus, we're going to sprinkle in some other little stories here and there along the way, things that I think are interesting or I should share with you, you should know about, because we can, and because I'm here and you're here, so let's do it. What mother names their child Alias? I don't know, but he seems to have been turned out fairly well. I mean, but for the fact that he wants to be a politician, but he's fairly intelligent. He seems, he seems somewhat intelligent. Apparently, Mrs. Ragsdale names her kid alias. That's who it is. I assume it's his real name, not his. Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I thought it was an unusual name when I saw it, but he seemed nice and he seemed intelligent and well-meaning, and I like encouraging the youth to do something that's productive. So, and he's trying to help society, and his ideas aren't completely destructive. He mentioned when I asked him about the books that he thinks that all that stuff should be taught in the home, but I recognize that my Victorian era type of perspectives about what sex ed should be in the school probably wouldn't be popular. Probably wouldn't be popular with the local populace, or frankly, any populace on the East Coast. that's what, because my sensibility is to be like, this whole thing started when you started teaching sex ed. It's not like you were teaching sex ed 50 years ago. That's a new thing. And yeah, it's just gotten worse and worse. So maybe just keep it very, very limited. Very, very limited. The whole thing is just stupid. But I don't know if that would, if I actually campaign, put me on your school board, so because I'm going to get rid of like basically every book you have that mentions anything about like alternate lifestyles. I think that would probably be a deal breaker here in northern New Jersey. That's just my take. That's just my take. I don't remember. I wasn't listening carefully, so I don't remember how he pronounced his name. Maybe he said Elias. Maybe he said that. I don't know. I wasn't listening carefully. Anyhow, it's a good question. It's a fair question. Maybe he doesn't think of himself as alias. It's a pretty cool name, actually. So before we get into all those other featured stories that I plan on covering for you guys, I did want to cover one thing here, which I think is interesting. And that is this right here being brought to us courtesy of the New York Post, saying, well, that's not saying anything. Paramount Skydance to slash 1,000 jobs this week in a first wave of mass layoffs. Uh-oh. Paramount Skydance. When Hollywood's suffering, it's a good time. It's a good time for everyone. I was thinking about talking to you all about the whole Robert De Niro outburst. All right, look, it's a fairly intimate. Anyway, bottom line, the Paramount's like having massive layoffs. I cut to the chase there. I thought it was interesting because I like seeing Hollywood that, but I'm actually going to go a whole different direction that I wasn't even planning on talking about. I'm going to talk to you guys here. We're gonna cut to the skinny because there's something I've been thinking about of late, which is like an audience building type of thing. I look at some content creators. They seem like nice folks. I got no problem with them. I got no problem with them. I kind of enjoy them. And I was just like, we're gonna be taking a poll. Okay, we're taking a poll. I want to show you this guy. I was showing Lady Logic this, and I was like, this just seems like such an easier life. Such an easier life. So I got no problem with this guy. The messaging that he gives is, fairly good. It's a channel you may be subscribed to. Good chance you are. It's good chance you are. So his name is Josiah Rises. Okay? If you look at his content here, Josiah Rises, and I got no problem with his content. I was just like, this seems like such an easier video. This guy creates 5-minute videos. A couple of 5-minute videos a day. He uploads, you go to his channel here. And he seems like a nice guy. I tend to agree with most of his views. I don't even, I was just like, I don't even know. I was like, could I do this? Should I do this? So he uploads videos. I haven't even looked at this one yet.
Today, we have to tear Gavin Newsom a new one for this absolutely pathetic.
It puts in some really good clickbait title. Gavin Newsom panics after hilarious backfire he did not see coming. I can tell you right now, it's not going to be hilarious. It's going to be okay. I'll be like, oh, I'll make you feel good. And I was like, this is, and it's an interesting little news feature. And he ends up getting, this one doesn't have many views. He just uploaded 3 hours ago. But he ends up getting thousands, tens of thousands of views, and he grew to be 463,000 subs doing this. I mean, instant regret. Let's cover Robert De Niro. Let's.
And now it is landing him in major hot water, and this whole thing where he continues to go on these shows and he says some of the most vile things imaginable about President Trump is now backfiring on him in a major way. We have a lot of things to talk about, including a
Okay, and you're making a fair point, Zohran. You're like, you can't do that, Joe. Look how long it takes you to make one video. No, because I'm actually trying to actually add content. I could do what I'm doing here now. Film myself doing it. Like what I'm doing literally right now. Film myself doing it for 5 minutes and just upload.
Potential lawsuit against him and all sorts of crazy things. And a lot of it has to do with what he said very recently when he was on MSNBC. And just listen to this clip here. Listen to what he says about Stephen Miller, who of course is doing a lot of great things for the country, protecting the country, getting illegals out of the country, all of that type of stuff. Things that America.
And I want to be clear here, okay? He may even see me talking about this. I have no problem with Josiah. I respect the man. I'm just simply saying he's just telling you that this story is out there. He doesn't even really add any, he's not adding any thought on it other than Robert De Niro is an idiot, which he is, obviously. So I agree with Josiah here. I was just like, I don't know.
American citizens, American people actually want. That is one of the biggest reasons for why President Trump won in 2024.
And I agree with you. A lot of it reminds me about the quartering. A lot of it reminds me about the quartering.
And yet what we have is Robert De Niro working directly against what Americans want, which is kind of ironic because, you know, that is just democracy at work. And apparently, you know, just like these Democrats always do, he is not a fan of democracy when it doesn't go his way. So this is what Robert De Niro has to say here in this insane clip. And then we'll get into the major backfire that is now happening towards him.
He will not. We see it.
And you're saying I did great updates daily for the Diddy trial. Okay, you're right. They tended to get 10 to 15,000 views. That's what they got. This guy's, and I would, if you consider work effort, expenditure for like views, this guy's getting 30,000 views. How many does this thing have? 99,000 views. 99,000 views. He's showing you a video.
We see it all the time. He will not want to leave. He set it up with his. I guess he's the Goebbels of the cabinet. Stephen Miller. He's
not Goebbels, it's Goebbels.
He's a Nazi. Yes, he is, and he's Jewish, and he should be ashamed of himself.
That is completely unhinged.
Understand the irony, which Josiah doesn't even point out. The irony of an Italian calling an Italian who was probably alive during World War II, calling a Jew a fascist. I mean, there's a certain level of chutzpah there. There's a certain level of chutzpah. You know, he doesn't point that out.
Absolutely, like that is the epitome of derangement right there with what he says. And now
so Josiah's properly calling this guy out as being deranged.
Hey, we have Stephen Miller, who is now coming out to talk about Robert De Niro. And boy, oh boy, does he have some very, very bad things to say to Robert De Niro in this video that we're going to be checking out here today, where he went on Fox and he talked about Robert De Niro and the things that Robert De Niro said about him in that clip. So let's go ahead and check this out and see.
Do you think there's going to be something shocking in what he says or hilarious? No, he puts a nice little title there, which will get you to watch because, you know, We all want to laugh at the left.
What Stephen Miller has to say.
Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy, Homeland Security Advisor Stephen Miller. First, your reaction to Robert De Niro. I don't know. If it was me, I think I'd be hiring an attorney, and I'd be looking at suing for defamation. Number two.
Which Stephen Miller would absolutely win if he did such a thing. And you can even tell by the way that he is looking here in his response. You can tell that there could be something like that cooking right now. How much would you guys like to see Robert De Niro held accountable for the absolutely disgusting things that he continues to say about Trump and about his administration? I think that would be pretty epic to see a lawsuit launched against him for the horrific things that he continues to say. And I mean, with the current Trump administration, I would not be surprised. I mean, they're not pulling any punches. They're not, they're not bending the knee.
I'll tell you right now, his take right here about how he can sue him for defamation is just flat out ridiculous. A defamation suit would be dismissed in 10 seconds, and Stephen Miller would end up looking like an ass. So that would be a bad call. That's not a good call.
They're not kowtowing to the leftists at all.
Robert De Niro is a sad, bitter, broken old man who's mostly.
And the reason why is because it's clearly a statement of opinion. It's not no one thinks that when Robert De Niro says that, he means he's literally part of the Nazi party. So yeah, it's a statement of opinion, and that's why there's no way. Stephen Miller understands that there's no way that would ever work a lawsuit for defamation.
Enraged because he has not made a movie worth watching in at least 30 years. Probably the longest string of flops, failures, embarrassments. This man has been degrading himself on camera with one horrific film after another.
I mean, can you guys even remember the last time that Robert De Niro has been in anything good? Like, I'm literally trying to think of what the last movie was that he was in that was like actually like a masterful film. Can't even think of what that would be.
My entire adult life, and he's not taken seriously by anybody, not by his family, not by his friends, not by his community. He's a shell of a man, and everyone disregards everything he says.
Woo! Those are some brutal words coming from Stephen Miller towards Robert De Niro. He is a shell of a man, and this is exactly what we have seen happen with so many of these celebrities who have become completely consumed with their TDS. They are left with nothing more than shells of who they once were. But really, at the end of the day, all Trump did was just expose the real...
Anyway, I think you get the point.
The true nature of so many of these celebrities, how hypocritical they are, how full of hate they are, how completely deranged.
I could do stuff like this about Rosie O'Donnell or Sunny Hostin or whatever her name is, and I can do this stuff all day. I can do this all day. I do it all day. I could do this all day. So that's my question for you fine people. I'm going to put in a poll, and you can put it in the little thing here. All right, you can put it in the in Rumble. I'll be checking on you, Rumble people. I'll be looking at you. Don't think I'm not looking at you. I'll be looking at you. So yeah, do you think that I should be creating Josiah Rises type content? That's my question for you. Let me actually do the poll now. Now that I said I'm going to do it, I should probably do it. Just so that we get some feedback. Start a poll. Should Joe, I didn't even make a thing tonight. Should Joe start doing short 5-minute quartering / Josiah? Or not? Definitely. My options are why not? Definitely no, it's cringe, or if it works for you. That's what I'm telling you, ghetto people. So there you go. I forgot to make a goal tonight. I really should have done that. I should have done that. We didn't. I should have definitely done that. So we'll yeah. Did you get my tip on X, not a tweet? Call it Twix. When you say tip, I assume you mean not financial, like something you wanted me to look into, which I saw that you wanted me to look into, that Levin show thing, which I actually looked at. I did actually look at it, and I was thinking about whether or not I wanted to cover it, and I'm probably not going to end up sharing it tonight. I thought it was interesting. I don't know. Maybe we'll see. I'm glad you reminded me, because it does fit in better with the show theme than I anticipated. So maybe the Mark Levin thing. His sister named Nanda Plume. Nice. I see what you did there. That was very good. Referring to my new friend Alias over here. Alias has a sister named Nanda Plume. Very good. Regarding lesbian rabbis, apostates, renegades, Yevseksia, Kapos, Judenrat, and at any time, somewhere between 5 and 20% of Jews hate other Jews in Judaism. Would that it be so low? It's gossip, not issues, but also content. So yes, I think that is a yes from you. God bless you, Sentry Bro, hitting me again. Still not getting feedback, like even just like, hey Joe. Still not getting that. But I'm totally taking it. You should know. You were very generous last week also, and I ended up counting it to sort of help us get past our goal the next night, because I don't think without you we would have gone there. So even though I didn't end up counting it for that night, the topic that I was thinking about covering, I ended up covering the next night by making a goal, which I was like, this is a goal that I'll make sure the audience easily crashes through. And they did. Also, check out article at Tableau on how counterproductive the ADL has been. Statistics show their anti-hate education creates more, not less hate. I had no doubt at all. In fact, I'm going to just say, I'm going to put this aside. We're going to put this one aside. I'm going to come back to this one. I want to come back to this one, because this one is something that I really want to come back to. That is something I've been saying for the longest time. There's a reason I nicknamed Jonathan Greenblatt as Jonathan Goebbels. I think he is the worst. He's the head of the ADL. He is the worst PR person for Jews imaginable. He makes me hate Jews. He does. He makes me just like really dislike Jews. And think of how insane this is. But, and I know some Jews. I have some relatives who are Jews. He does. He makes me hate him. MAGA, make Argentina great again. Stephen Miller, Pee Wee German. You can do better than this, Starch. You can do better. You've shown it. I understand that you're a hardcore lefty. You're a hardcore lefty. I understand. You've been very well indoctrinated, but you can do better than this. You can do better. This is just chutzpah. You can't pronounce a chet? Yeah, no, I can't. Chalila. Can't pronounce a chet. I distinguish between my chet and my chaf. I distinguish between my aleph and an aleph and an ayin. Okay, so I don't need to hear you. There's something called I'm talking to an audience and personality. Drop in a little personality. It's dumb to critique De Niro on his acting. He's a brilliant. I agree with you 100%. I didn't even think it was funny. I was like, what are you talking about, Stephen Miller? I can tell you in the last 30 years, I mean, first of all, I don't Goodfellas might be 30 years, but he did that other one. He was in The Departed. He had enough of a hit that, with Ben Stiller and that series of comedies about the Schmuck family or whatever they are. I don't even know. With Ben Stiller Meet the Parents or something. I don't know. Where why would you hit him there? It was a really, I agree with you 100%. His politics are nuts. That's all gossip rage. Yeah. But I agree with you. It's like I didn't think this was even a good hit by Stephen Miller because I was totally like, what are you talking about? I mean, I'm sure he's been in some clunkers, but to say that he hasn't been in a good movie in 30 years. Now, maybe The Departed, frankly, is already 2 decades old. But to claim that he's not revered as being a talented actor who has a resume of serious films that would make most other actors in Hollywood blush, and start saying, you know, that he needs the attention is just it's dumb. It's completely dumb. Totally agree with you on that. Anyway, so we got sidetracked. That happens sometimes. We're 30 minutes in and it didn't even get started here, but that's okay because we got sidetracked in a good direction. I'm looking over here. Sure, Joe. Joe should make Joe content because the Joe show is already a faux show. I go. All right. All right. Your audience is going to be much, much different. Possibly. That's true. Luke is pointing. I'm checking the Rumble rant. Should Joe do 5-minute content? That's what the question was. All right. No worries, Jacob. You're doing great. You're doing great. Let me see how the poll is coming along. Because I need to know if I'm going to be making. Okay, 26% saying why not, 9% saying definitely, 38% saying no cringe, and 27% saying if it works for you. That's really a mixed bag. That's really a mixed bag. Yeah, I haven't been here in a while because of my husband's cancer treatments. I'm so sorry about that. But we are now 1 week away from his radiation treatments, and he's doing well. Thank God. Oh, that's awesome. I'm so happy to hear that. Been your member for a year, so I'm going to drop that horn for you. And prayers for your husband. That battle is obviously something everyone can sympathize with. Few can empathize, but well, not few actually. A lot of people can empathize, but yeah. Prayers. Tell him to be strong. And the key thing is he has to not question that he's going to beat it. It's a really, really, really important thing to not even question it. He's going to beat it. And it's a struggle. And that he'll be a better man for the experience. As hard as it is to feel like that. It's so essential. It's really, really important. The worst thing for the individual is to start questioning or their hope. So it becomes the body reacts to how you feel. So as you know, his wife, it's essential that you make sure that he doesn't question for a second that he's going to kick cancer's ass. So, and I've had some viewers here, many of you have seen different people here in the chat who I have, you know, I will always going to push them to understand how some of them know it already. But anyhow, let's get into California. Let's talk about California. So first thing I want to show you is this that was reported by Wall Street Apes. Specifically, here's how Gavin Newsom steals California elections. Well, this is quite the claim. San Joaquin County Sheriff says voting records show people from outside the county vote in California elections, including Pakistan. The online voter registration system, it seems to be an honor system. You're able to register and cast a vote even if you don't live in the country. Anybody can put information there to register to vote. Let's hear from this guy here.
Structured. We see quite a
This is he doesn't tell us who this is. the San Joaquin County, what? County what? County Sheriff. What's his name? I don't know. All right. How is he coming to this? How is he the person who's reporting this? I'm not sure. But this was significant enough that I wanted to bring it to your attention.
The way the voting system is structured, we see quite a few flaws. You're able to register even if and cast a vote if you don't live in the country, as evident of his brother in Pakistan. And I think we have some evidence of 2 or 3 other people out of the country that voted. Is that correct?
Yeah, approximately 2 or 3 other people out of the country, as well as people residing outside of the district.
Okay. The online voter registration.
When people hear 2 or 3 people voting, that's something that the left will quickly dismiss as being irrelevant. Because they'll be like, who cares about 2 or 3 people? The point is, we have no idea how many people. We have no idea how many people from outside of California are voting, whether they're in Pakistan or they're in Oregon.
Registration system. It seems to be an honor system. Anybody can put information in there to register to vote. All you have to do is click a box and say that you're not lying, and then you'll get an email from the Secretary of State or something in the mail saying thank you for registering to vote, and there you are. Once you're on the voter rolls, anytime an election comes around, guess what? You get mailed a ballot, right? You get mailed something to vote.
What?
So we found that a little bit problematic.
What?
The way the voting system is structured.
What? That's crazy. That is crazy. Oh, so you just fill out a little online form, and you too can start getting ballots. You all can start getting ballots. Just fill out a little online form. I wouldn't advocate and promote any of you lying online, so please don't mistake what I'm saying for that. I'm certainly not encouraging voter fraud. 1,000% not. I think that we need to have integrity and transparency in the integrity of our election system. That's paramount. I'm simply saying this sounds insane. This sounds insane. I mean, at least fake it. Fake that you care about integrity. Fake it. Listen to this guy again.
It seems to be an honor system. Anybody can put information in there to register to vote. All you have to do is click a box and say that you're not lying, and then you'll get an email from the Secretary of State or something in the mail saying thank you for registering to vote, and there you are. Once you're on the voter rolls, anytime an election comes around, guess what? You get mailed a ballot. Right?
You don't have to be an American. You don't have to be anything. I don't know why it is that they don't have. It's shocking, but they don't have 100 million votes in their elections with the 40 million people living there. I don't understand what's happening there. What is happening? So, yeah, that seems to be like really, really corrupt. Yeah, so that's, if you're wondering about Prop 50, which the entire country, right now, the entire country should be watching their elections, because they're basically saying we're going to try and skunk the number of House Democrats there are. So that's a national, we're going to basically, this is what's so outrageous about it. They want to skunk their own system for the purposes of destroying our federal government, because they're all kvetchy about the fact that Texas had a legal obligation to change their jurisdictions. So they're all kvetchy about that. So now they're trying, like, oh, we're gonna teach you all a lesson. It's like, so everyone now is watching this, and so when they have a crappy system for maintaining the integrity of their elections, this is not simply harming, this is not merely harming the Californians at this point. This is harming the entire country. This is harming you and me. This is harming all of us, because ultimately their elections now are impacting how many Democrats there are. They're telling us that. that they know that they can basically help control how many Democrats there are by gerrymandering. And I've said many times that gerrymandering is done by both the left and the right, but they want to basically change around their entire system. And in order to get Prop 50 to pass, they have an election system, which we should all be questioning just how decent this election system is, how screwed up it is. I already covered for y'all, I think last week, the story about how there was an issue as to whether or not some of their ballots on Prop 50 would show no on the would show a no on, like, through the envelope. And there's questions as to, PolitiFact claims that that's, really misstated. Really misstated. You'll see PolitiFact here. In fact, I'll pull this up real quick. PolitiFact says, like, it's mostly not true, like, as far as it being real corruption. Mostly not true. No, don't worry your pretty little head about that. If you vote no on Prop 50, they call it mostly false. Okay. If you vote no on Prop 50 to stop the redistricting, it shows through the envelope, making it easier for Democrats to cheat. Our holes in California mail-in envelopes, so some votes can be discarded. That's misleading. Is it? If your time is short, Sacramento, and my time is short, Sacramento County, California vote-by-mail envelopes were designed with holes punched into either side of the envelope's signature section. The hole's purpose is to indicate low vision voters where they should sign. Another hole in the envelope helps election officials affirm the ballots aren't left inside envelopes. So I guess when they're pulling them out, in case you miss one, you'll see the white against the yellow envelope. Voters can insert mail-in ballots. So insert mail-in ballots into envelopes 8 different ways. 2 of those ways might show voting marks through the envelope's holes, but the yes/no text to the voting marks is not visible. Sacramento County Election Office said it's a felony under California law for election officials to tamper with people's votes, including by discarding them. This is not mostly false. None of this is false. Basically, it's not at all false. The only part that would be false would be to say, because what are they saying? They're saying there are holes. It does show through, but there are always holes there. And if you wanted to, you can ensure that it doesn't show through. Okay, what about the people who are not knowing or thinking about that and aren't looking at it? And just because it's not legal for them to tamper, that's the stupidest thing in the world. The big concern is that they're doing things that are illegal. So, yeah, I don't know what the hell that's even supposed to mean. I don't know what they're even talking about. They say that the reason that there are holes there are because it's to show people where to sign on one side, and the other side it's so they can see if there's a ballot left inside the envelope. So maybe there's a good faith reason for having it there. Why would you possibly set it up, the ballots, that they could possibly naturally fold there unless that's purposeful? How are you not mindful of this? All you need to do is have the little ring that you fill in, like literally a quarter of an inch to the left or the right. So this is such a bad faith claim, typical for fact checkers, because I have to believe. Let me see if I can pull up for you. So for those of you who weren't here when we're covering that story, let me see if I can pull up a quick video showing this.
Hi.
I think this is showing.
Hi. Well, here we go again. It's voting time in the state of California. And I got my ballot, and I have, as you can see here, I have voted no, right here, on Prop 50. You can see my vote right there. And so can everybody else, by the way, when I put it in my envelope, which, as you can see right here, again, has holes in it. So if I put my ballot right here in the envelope, see, there's my vote right there, and I'm putting it in here, and look, everybody else can see it. There's my vote right there. My no vote right through the hole in the ballot.
That's definitely intentional.
Thank you for making the election poll workers have such an easy time to count my vote. In fact, everybody can see it. And in fact, they can see my name printed right here.
Now, the point from PolitiFact.
Hi. Well, here we go again there. My no vote right through. In fact, everybody can see it. And in fact, they can see my name printed right here, along with my signature and my address, my zip code, basically all of my pertinent personal information, which is going to go right, you know, through whatever election workers are counting these ballots. So anyways, good luck, vote no, and pray.
I mean, look at this. It looks like it's designed to show which way they voted. I mean, yes, you could turn the ballot around if you wanted to. So it's not going to catch everything. But I think they purposefully chose where to put the holes or where to place the ballot marking. They could have had it half an inch lower or higher or towards the center of the page. But no, they left it right there. Right there. Come on. Come on. Come on. PolitiFact calling mostly false. So just freaking disingenuous. The fact checkers suck. That's a fact. YouTube really likes 12-minute videos, so they can put that sweet mid-roll ad in there. So you're saying don't do 5 minutes like Josiah. That's stupid. Do 12 minutes like quartering. Okay. All right. That's why it takes 2 months to count the votes. They need to wait for all the votes throughout the world. Yes. In my opinion, De Niro always plays De Niro. He doesn't lose in the role. He turns the role into himself. He sticks out like a sore thumb. I think you're correct in this, by the way. This is a really interesting conversation to have. Have you ever seen him as a different character, even in comedies? He's the same tough guy, intimidating, you know, he's always the same guy. He's always the same guy. I think there's a lot of actors who are highly respected who are like that. I mean, it's going to sound like blasphemy. Jack Nicholson, he's always Jack Nicholson. He's always the same. But De Niro's worse because he's so typecast. So as soon as you see him, you just think mafia. You need to have a lot more respect for actors who have the capacity to sort of get lost in a role, like you know, the true greats like Daniel Day-Lewis. That dude's a freaking chameleon. He's a freaking Dustin Hoffman too. Question: before I vote, will you adding that contact impact this live show? Why not just post 5-10 minute clips of this show? Start see how that does. I don't think that works. In a way, it's like I think people want fresh content. That's what I think. Sheriffs in California are elected to their position. That's why it matters to him. See that? JH sort of ties it all in together. Tying a neat little bow for us. That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense. Yeah, okay. So there you go. That's why it matters. Anyway, I got a lot more for you on Gavin. Gavin Newsom. This I discovered courtesy of Tim Pool. So I'm gonna bring you Tim. This is a guy who actually makes content when he's making content. You might like him, you might hate him, but at least he's giving you his opinion. which is not just like a vanilla expression of what everyone in MAGA is already thinking. It was, as soon as they heard the story.
Donald Trump will be deploying election monitors into blue jurisdictions, and the response from Democrats is that he is rigging the elections.
So the two states that he's sending the DOJ into are California, my home state here, New Jersey. That's right. Trump administration said monitors will be watching polling in 2 states led by Democrats where key races or issues are on the ballots. Jack Ciattarelli, who I voted for earlier today, apparently in polling is only 1% behind. In my little blue state here. That's right. Republican nominee Jack Ciattarelli looking to take it down. Take it down. Please, we need Lakewood to vote.
Love the argument. The DOJ is going to send people to monitor. They can't do anything else, and that's rigging an election. Let me just stress this one more time for you guys. By sheer virtue of observing their election practice, he is changing the outcome of the election. What's the argument? That were it not for us watching how they're doing things, they would win? It sounds like Democrats have rigged their elections, and the thought of someone making sure they didn't is interfering with their election process. There is something kind of funny when you look at the Constitution.
There's that old ancient Chinese riddle, right? Like if a tree falls in a forest, how many elections have the Democrats rigged?
And how it prescribes federal elections, the state legislature determine how these elections will take place. And in the event a state decides to rig their election.
It's the double slit experiment. See, you didn't think I would know that reference. You didn't think I would know that reference. But the act of observing it changes everything. The legal question is, can feds monitor state elections? I thought elections are completely under state control. This is a phenomenal question. Phenomenal question. I clicked it by accident, and I'm so glad I did, because this is such a great question. Oh, I got to start this one. I'm going to finish this story, and we're going to talk about this. I'm going to finish at least Tim Pool. Great question.
Process. Then, so long as it's not like overt rigging, they can structure elections in such a way that make it impossible for their enemies to win. Well, now with election monitors being deployed, and likely, in my opinion, National Guard throughout the next year, Democrats are fearful they won't win. Here's my bet. Democrats largely won through ballot harvesting. Many of these states, most states, it's legal to ballot harvest. That means you go to someone's house, you knock on the door and say, hey, I'll take your mail-in vote for you, and go drop it off. That's why they want universal mail-in voting. Regular people who don't vote will fill it out. Someone knocks on their door and says, I'll take it for you. Now, in many of these locations, there's a limit on how many ballots you are allowed to harvest.
Like up to 25.
It's no limit. They go to nursing homes and collect ballots. Well, what happens when a guy pulls up to a ballot box and he's got 500 ballots, but there is an observer standing there with the DOJ? You can't drop him off. So what do? Nothing. You lose. And that's what they're really worried about, at least in my opinion.
Possibly. I think there's a lot of other ways that they could be rigging their elections. That's possibly one way, Tim. But he's not happy. Gavin is not happy. And he's got a response of his own. So what's California going to do? California will dispatch observers to watch DOJ's election monitors. They're going to be watching the watchers. They're trying to horn in on Robert Gavea. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi announced Friday the federal administration will deploy staff to evaluate California's November 4th redistricting election. California will deploy its own observers to watch over federal election monitors the Trump administration is sending to the state ahead of the November 4th election, State Attorney General Rob Bonta said. Bonta on Monday accused President Donald Trump of preparing to use poll monitors to sow down conspiracy theories about the fairness of California's vote on, this is Politico's framing, preparing to use poll monitors to sow doubt and conspiracy theories about the fairness of California's vote on a congressional redistricting measure pushed by Democrats. Quote, they're not going to be allowed to interfere in ways that the law prohibits, Bonta, a Democrat, told reporters during a virtual news conference. We cannot be naive. The Republican Party asked for the U.S. DOJ to come in. Why would that be? Like, what is the harm? Bonta's comments come after Attorney General Pam Bondi announced Friday that the U.S. Department of Justice would monitor polling places during next week's off-year elections in California and New Jersey to uphold, quote, the highest standards of election integrity. California GOP Chair Corin Rankin, a former Trump campaign surrogate, asked fellow California and Justice Department Civil Rights head Harmeet Dillon to send the monitors. So Corin Rankin went to Harmeet Dillon and it's like, hey, can you help save us from like what we think is going to be Democrat corruption in the election? And she's like, sure, we'll send in some monitors for you. Governor Gavin Newsom, Democrat who spearheaded the redistricting ballot measure, called the move an act of voter intimidation and suppression. How is this intimidating anyone? Who's being intimidated? They're watching what's happening. Why would that be intimidating anyone? This is a bridge too far, Newsom, a likely presidential candidate in 2028, said on Friday. How? What is happening by them watching? Bonta echoed the sentiment, speculating that Trump is preparing to challenge potential passage of Proposition 50, Democrats' redistricting proposal that is polling strongly ahead. He said Trump's efforts foreshadow an attempt to challenge future elections. Maybe because there's a lot of corruption happening. Quote, he's laying the groundwork. He's socializing an idea that is very dangerous. It's not socializing it. This is something that we've all been thinking about long before 2020 even. I felt like I think the Democrats cheated in 2016. I just think that they didn't anticipate how much they would have to cheat. I think there was plenty of cheating going on in 2016 by Democrats. Just wasn't enough. All indications, all arrows show that this is a tee up for something more dangerous in the 2026 midterms and maybe beyond. He's gonna be there forever. This is what he's trying to do. DOJ did not immediately respond. But this was great. LOL, calm down, bro, she posted. There you go. Harmeet Dillon previously mocked Newsom's suggestion of the deployment of federal monitors amounts to voter suppression. Here she is. Justice Department under the Democrat administration has sent in federal election observers for decades. Not once do we hear that this was voter intimidation from states such as California. Do you really want to go there? Isn't transparency a good thing? So, which brings us to the question that State Lines asked here is, can they? Why can they? Harmeet Dillon is saying it happens all the time. All the time. And she's asking, well, can they? If you look in the Constitution is pretty express that the right of the states to conduct their own elections is plenary. How they decide to do what the heck they're going to do is in state control, not federal business. So how can they? And I think this is a phenomenal question because the Constitution seems to agree with, in this case, Governor Newsom, and raises the question, under what right or authority would the federal government be interfering with the state election? Now, you might want to try and say, and it's not an area I've ever researched before, so I don't want to claim that I'm talking to you more as a guy on the internet than as a lawyer on the internet. So let's be crystal clear about that. So I haven't researched this issue. So, but my gut would be just, I don't know. I don't know how they come into New Jersey. It's purely a state election. Like, I don't understand the right or authority of the federal government to basically intercede into how New Jersey picks its governor. I voted today for my governor, assemblyman, lieutenant governor. Like, that's all there was. All these are state positions. So under what theory here is the federal government interceding? I don't know. I don't have an answer. I think that this is a great question. I don't have an answer. But now you might say that Prop 50 is a little different. You might try and say Prop 50 in California, where they're voting on should they change how they do their that's affecting the constitution of the federal government, the composition of the federal government. Not the I don't want to confuse people by using the word constitution appropriately there. You might say that, hey, this is really affecting the composition of the federal government. And that's why Prop 50, there's more basis for Trump in California's election. There's more basis for Trump to be in the federal government to be interceding than in New Jersey. But even if I was Governor Newsom, I'd be like, how we gerrymander, that's our call. And this is about Prop 50 is about our state constitution. So under what authority are you coming in here and thinking that you can control things or have lending some oversight? What's your legal authority? And frankly, I think if you ask me as a judge, I'd be like, they're right. You're not allowed to oversee. You can't. You're run by the state. Change the Constitution. You don't like it? Change the Constitution. But then we have Harmeet Dillon saying this has been going on for a long time. Democrats been sending people in for a long time. And I asked myself, I don't know why that happened. Just because it happened in the past. Do I want it to happen now? I mean, I can expect that if a Democrat's in control, it's going to happen again in the future. But I think that the question that State Line's enthusiast was asking there is really the key question. And I don't really have an answer that would justify. Harmeet seems to think that this happens all the time. And it could be that even though they don't have authority, there's sort of niceties that states are like, sure, come in. What do we want? And here's the thing, because Tim Pool nailed it. He's like, why would you be bothered by there being people looking at your elections unless you're planning on doing something illicit? And if you are planning on doing something illicit, then that's why I can understand why you're really bothered. And it's sort of like, when they put up the blinders and say, you can't look here, you can't look here, that's what makes you feel as if, of course, you don't want people to look there because you're freaking cheaters. You're basically compromising. You're the ones creating questions about the integrity of the election when you start freaking out about the people watching you. It's like someone who's like, why do you want to look at my phone? Why do you want to look at my phone? You don't trust me. It's like, dude. Especially when you're talking about an area where it's like no one should be trusting you. You wouldn't be trusting them. This is not a marriage here. This is a hostile relationship. This is like a hostage negotiation type of scenario here, where it's like, no, we're totally going to trust you. That, if you walk out with the money, that you're going to just return it later. The hostages will be totally fine. Totally trust you. That's not what the scenario is here. So, yeah. So so it looks as if I would expect there to be a legal battle over this. If he's dead set on it, I would expect to be a legal battle. But who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? It's Schrodinger's rigged election. Yes, that's exactly. The cat is totally, everyone knows the cat is totally alive. Grab him by the red line? Well, we should. They fall under the Voting Rights Act and state law, as most states allow poll watchers. If you disagree, we can repeal the law. They fall under the Voting Rights Act. I'm not sure which part of the Voting Rights Act gives authority to the federal government to oversee state elections. I mean, I guess, and you can ask questions about the Voting Rights Act in general as to the whole gerrymandering and the special minority majority district questions that come up on the Voting Rights Act. And I imagine that's what the federal government would bring up in their in the justification for the fact that they have a right to ensure that the elections that are happening here are legit. I think it's a complicated issue, and I certainly haven't done any research on this to weigh in with something that's going to sound like a reasonable legal opinion that I have confidence has accuracy. So the best I could do is flesh out the issues, and I think that Allegan is raising the counter issue here to what state lines enthusiasts. And now how that actually would play out, I think it has played out that niceties are allowed. Whether or not you can keep them out, if you asked me, I would say you can. If I was a sitting judge on this, I would need to have a lot of evidence that states have a right, that the federal government has a right to intercede here. And I'll ask you this: do you really want them to have that right? Like, do you want to broaden federal power to oversee? To maybe, I don't know. My general default setting is no. I want to limit federal power as much as possible, irrespective of who's sitting in the White House. Speaking of people who have aims of sitting in the White House, Gavin Newsom is certainly one of them. And part of his methodology for increasing his popularity, like that transition, that was really smooth. Governor Gavin Newsom tells his stories about hustling to pay the bills, which raises eyebrows given his family ties to a billionaire heir. California Governor Newsom's characterization of his humble origins are raising eyebrows given his family ties to late billionaire heir Gordon Getty. During a recent appearance on the All the Smoke podcast, Newsom recounted how his mother, who divorced from his father when he was young, probably because he hated Gavin, hustled when he was growing up. My mom, quote, my mom was 19, pregnant, and divorced a few years later with 2 kids, he said on the podcast, came from no money, just hustled, worked hard, grinding every single day, 2.5 jobs, no BS. Quote, we had roommates all the time because she couldn't afford the rent, he continued. It was also about paying the bills, man. It was just like, man, yeah, I'm sure he talks like that all the time when he's sitting in the French cuisine. It's paying the bills, man. It was just like hustling. And so I was out there kind of raising myself, turning on the TV, just getting obsessed. I was sitting there with the Wonder Bread, the macaroni and cheese. Yeah, sure. Throughout his career, Newsom has told similar hard Scrabble stories implying that he grew up in poverty in the lower echelons, the middle class, seeking to be more relatable to voters. Yeah, that's him. Okay. Over the summer, for example, he claimed to have slept on the couch and that his sister slept in a hallway because his mother had to rent out the spare room. But skeptics have pointed out that Newsom's late father, William, former associate justice on the California Court of Appeals, served as a highfalutin attorney for Getty's billion-dollar fortune. He even wrote here, I miss that scarf. Does that look like someone who's struggling? This look like someone who's financially struggling? Young Putin over here is trying to say Gavin Newsom versus J.D. Vance in high school to show how cool how cool Gavin Newsom was in high school. Does this look like someone who's struggling? Someone who's forced to sleep on the couch? Oh, we can't. Oh my gosh, times are tough. William was so involved with the Gettys that he helped deliver the ransom payment in response to the kidnapping of John Paul Getty III, meaning that's what his father did. His father was involved in delivering that ransom. The elder Newsom previously explained that he was limited in helping out Gavin's mother financially due to a costly run for the Senate in 1968. I made a foolish mistake of putting my own money in it and losing, he said, according to a 2003 San Francisco Chronicle article. I had a huge deficit when it was over. I lost my law practice in the process. Things were unraveling. It took me quite a while to pull myself out financially. Tessa was working a number of jobs. Gavin had jobs after school. Oh, yeah? Yeah. He later added, I was around people of wealth. It was at McDonald's jobs? Because I don't think it was McDonald's jobs. I was around people with wealth but never had any money, nor did Gavin. Oh, okay. Yet after Gavin graduated from Santa Clara University, he started up a boutique winery, Plump Jack Group, with Getty's financial backing. Okay, so straight out of college, all of a sudden, he's got this billionaire who's giving financial backing. Quote, anyone with more than an inch of curiosity would know that Governor Newsom was raised by his mother after her divorce from his father when he was 3 years old, a Newsom spokesperson told the Post. He's talked about moving between two different worlds, but he was raised by a mother who worked 3 jobs at one point, secretary, waitress, and paralegal. Notably, Newsom attended kindergarten and first grade at École Notre Dame des Victoires, a Catholic school. So they must have had some money, right? In August, Newsom trolled VP J.D. Vance, showing off a stylish photo purportedly of him in high school, wearing a fancy scarf juxtaposed with a throwback pic of the VP in high school wearing a bland T-shirt, standing next to women posed in front of urinals. So, yeah, he's real street. This dude's real street. He's real street. He's got the street cred. They found video of Gavin when he was young to help support his claim here.
It was never easy for me. I was born a poor black child.
So there you go. There you go. There's Gavin Newsom responding to criticism that he's exaggerating about how rough it was. And in case that's not enough evidence for you, in case you question the how persuasive that clip is, we do have this also. Him and his gang, thank God he made it out alive. This is Gavin Newsom here. San Francisco Chronicle in January 2019. Gavin Newsom with Paul Mohan, Andrew Getty, yeah, that Getty, and Bill Getty posing for a quote "Children of the Rich" feature that ran in the San Francisco Chronicle on December 12th, 1991. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Now, you want to try and tell us that he wasn't really rich, he was just a poser. Oh, okay. So basically, he's been full of crap for the last 40 years. The last 35 years, he's been completely full of crap. It's not just a new ailment that he's full of crap. He either was wealthy, and he's full of crap now, or he was full of crap when he was a young man. Which one is it? Which one is it? Such an everyman hanging out with the Gettys. It's a hard knock life for Gavin. Yeah. HIV test just for looking at this picture. That's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. That's pretty good. What are the odds Democrats demolish the new ballroom? 0. No chance. They might restructure it. I don't know. I think it's very unlikely. Was there ever a resolution to the ungag Trump case? Joe, we need you to kill that precedent so they can't gag critics. Enunciation is important there. Yeah. I took it to the first department, lost, appealed to the Court of Appeals, lost, asked the Supreme Court to listen to me. They said no. So, yeah, that's what happened. That's what happened. So I ran it as far as the flagpole as I could get it. I'd love to go back on that issue. If you know someone who's got an issue with being gagged, let me know, because I would love to revisit that. So, yeah, I would love to go back on that, because I think it's very possible that the Supreme Court really didn't want to get involved in the whole situation because of Trump, specifically because of Trump. But I do think there's a circuit split. where, interestingly enough, the liberal justices, the liberal circuits, tend to be more forgiving. They have more of a problem with there being a gag. Like the Ninth Circuit is against it, and the Fifth Circuit is in favor of gags. And when we think about it, as I explained when I was covering this, when you first hear that, you're like, what? That sounds crazy. But you have to realize that we're looking at historical precedents that go back 30 years, 40 years. And back then, back in the 80s, for example, you have the right-wing conservatives were very big believers in government, trusting government. And the Ninth Circuit, West Coast, for example, was very into liberalism, true liberalism, not leftism. So that's why the Fifth Circuit, it makes sense, and Second Circuit was also into liberalism. So it's New York. So that's why these bastions of liberalism, like genuine liberalism, when you have decisions that come from 40, 35 years ago, they're actually probably going to be more likely to have precedent that are consistent with values that you have than the big government perspectives of the South, like Texas is in the Fifth Circuit. Poll watchers observe elections, not oversee them. Now the law that mandated free and fair elections in the South is being rejected by the North. Of course it is. Of course it is. So it's always been hypocrisy. God's ability to not swallow his pride from I can't critique you. I can't. I think the guarantee clause A4S4 may apply to federal government interaction with state elections. There needs to be a way to confirm if a state is a republic, and election monitors fit that. Amendment 4S4. Article 4, S4. Section 4. Let me see what you're talking about. Let me pull this up here. I don't have the Constitution memorized. Section 4. I see what you're trying to say here. The United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a republican form of government and shall protect each of them against invasion. And on application of legislature or of the executive legislature cannot be convened against domestic violence. You want to say that this is in order to maintain a republican form of government, they want to make sure that the elections are free and fair. Okay. That's not a bad argument. I can accept that. That's pretty good. And I do think that there's a difference between watching and overseeing. So perhaps that is the distinction where the federal government is like, hey, we're just sending people there. We're just sending folks there. Now, the state might say, well, get the hell out of it when we're counting the votes. And that could happen. It could happen, theoretically. We see that even when they're supposed to legally have poll watchers, that Republicans get shunted to the back. We saw that happen in 2020. I saw Ron Coleman in Pennsylvania fighting over this. I'm gonna, before I get into the, I want to transition over to the next topic here. Also election related. Should I do that? Should I cover that? Maybe we'll save that. All right, let's do it. This topic's gonna take me a while. I'm really gonna try not to rant. Here. The biggest rant I ever had, I think, on this channel is a video that you're unlikely to be able to find anymore. And where I absolutely lost it about on this rabbi who was claiming, misrepresenting selected passages from Torah to try and imply that Torah supports the trans movement. And I was going scorched earth on this guy for a solid 30 minutes, I think, if not longer, where I was just raging at this guy, who is a rabbi. Now, I want to be clear here, okay? Before we do this, you know what? I'll give you the video. Let's just start with this.
Hi, Rabbi. Hi, Rabbi. Hi, Rabbi. Hi, Rabbi.
Oh, God. Pins and needles, needles and pins. Happy man grins. Okay. Most of you know, if you don't know yet, I am an Orthodox Jew. That means I practice Judaism in accordance with Torah directives as interpreted by rabbinic authority going back several millennia. You might not even know where Reformed Jews and conservative Jews are, or what the distinction is. And I don't want to get into a great deal of detail talking about this. Reformed Judaism is an invention that came about roughly, I think, 150 years ago, maybe less, maybe a century ago, probably like 150 years ago, which was basically saying that Torah is too tough, it's too rigid, it's not with the times enough, and we need to reform how we're going to our approach to Judaism. When they started changing various things and saying we're going to look at things very differently in ways that they basically just ignored Torah, in ways that were really corrupting Torah. They were really terrible. The conservative movement, as I understand it, I haven't looked into the whole history of this part of this. As I understand it, it sort of broke back away from that, saying, all right, reform, you're pretty much not Jewish anymore. So I think conservative Jews basically were like, we're going to be a little bit more religious than those Reformed Jews because we're sort of uncomfortable with that. Reformed Judaism, I think it was sometime during my lifetime, introduced the notion of having female rabbis. There was no such thing as a female rabbi 100 years ago. There was no such thing. There were some great women. Some of them were leaders of Judaism. You can look at Queen Esther. You can look in Book of Judges. We talk about Deborah. We call Deborah. Many prophets. We look in the matriarchs as being essential to the development of Judaism. This is not to say that it's not a matter of looking at women as being in any way inferior. It's simply recognizing a different role that women have, and that's not part of being part of the rabbinate. I've always, and much I think that like Catholics, most people would say true Catholics, I think that many of whom would reject the notion of having female priests. So when I hear this, I know this. The level of education that Orthodox Jews have, it starts when we're literally, before you can talk, you're indoctrinated in a world of Judaism and understanding how various cultural, religious elements to Judaism work. Learning Hebrew as part of like your upbringing. A tiny little kid being trained to say a blessing on food before they, as some of the first words that come out of their mouth. Before they're 2, 3, by the time they're 3, a Jewish education is fully underway. In the home and in school. And when they go to nursery and kindergarten, it's always going to be a something that understanding the various stories that come up in the Torah and things of that nature, understanding how Jewish law works, the practical elements to it on a day-to-day basis that would affect the lives of a child, like eating milk and meat together, the prohibition on that, or various foods that are prohibited to practicing Orthodox Jews. These are it's without exaggeration that I tell you that I have absolutely no question whatsoever that my 11-year-old daughter has a wealth of knowledge about Judaism that far exceeds any of these rabbis over here, which is why the notion of them being called a rabbi is just like offensive. Because I do not consider myself, and I'm positive I know 100 times what any of these women know. I do not consider myself enough of authority to be labeled a rabbi. I never got what was called smicha, which is ordained as being a rabbi. But it's just like, this is just like, I don't know what studies they take. I'm sure there's some sort of courses or something like that they take, and all of a sudden you're just conferred, boom, you're a rabbi. It's not simply just about what you know. It's also about your level of practice as far as whether this is something that merits respect, which is why I'll tell you right now. And you watching right now, maybe you're a Reform Jew or a conservative Jew or whatever, or you may have no clue. I'm not looking to offend anyone who's watching this show, but this is why I'm not looking to offend these women even, but this is why when I hear this opening over here, it's very bothersome to me because it's almost like it's spitting on Judaism, actual practicing Judaism. It's like they can call themselves mullahs also. I'm sure that would offend Muslims to be like, what are you joking? Like, just stop it. Just stop it. But they're going to take this role that they have here, that they are rabbis. Like I said, rabbis who know less than my 11-year-old daughter, and basically now weigh in on the political scene because they have so much to add.
Hi, Rabbi. Hi, Rabbi. Hi, Rabbi. Hi. We're in.
All right. I just want to say that opening is just insanely cringe. Like, just how it's like if someone came along and they said, how do we do something in a way that's really cringe? Like, no, we can. And they're like, maybe if we all walk up at the same time and give each other a high five. No, that's not nearly cringe enough. It has to be way more cringe. What about, because we need to introduce to our audience that they understand that we're rabbis. We understand about being Jewish. We understand Jewish concerns. We understand what it's like to be a Jew. Just stop it. Stop it. Just because you ate matzah last Passover, you think like all of a sudden, you understand Jewish life. Yeah. We're good. I'm good.
Among the thousands of Jewish New Yorkers who've been out door knocking and phone banking to elect Zohran Mamdani.
Because you're an idiot. Because you're a moron. Because you're a doofus. Because if someone were to peel back that Brillo hair of yours and peer through your ear, they could wave to the friend on the other side of your head. That's why. That's what we're here to tell you.
We're also rabbis.
No, you're not. You're not. You might want to pretend it. Maybe you got some sort of little online course thing you basically filled out like this is like I'm registered to vote in California. You're rabbis.
We know Zohran will fight.
What the heck? No. I saw this. I was like,
to make our city affordable and safe for our families.
All of a sudden, Gorlock invaded when I was watching this. We know that Mamdani will make New York affordable and safe for our families. No. No. Oh my God. Yeah. That's a man. I'll tell you right now, that's a man.
And for our neighbors of all faiths and backgrounds.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not checking their genealogy. Maybe they are Jewish. I don't know. I look at them and I feel so much. I feel like,
As New Yorkers, we're also just people who live here, who
we're just like you. But we need to tell you we're rabbis. We're just like you, but we need to tell you we're rabbis. Exactly like you. Don't you go around telling people that you're a rabbi? Don't you feel a need to do that? We're just like you. See, this is
don't want to get priced out of this incredible city that we call home.
We know fellow Jews want to be able to afford housing, transportation, and childcare for their families too.
As Jews,
oh God. I guess this one is the only one who can grow a beard. So maybe closest to being a rabbi. Maybe.
as rabbis, as New Yorkers, we believe that all people deserve to thrive.
Yeah, I believe all people deserve to thrive also. I agree with that. But that's not because I'm Jewish or a rabbi. But this is what they're trying to do. They're desperately trying to say our voices are significant because we're rabbis. We're really important people because we're rabbis. We basically we spent like 45 we spent 45 minutes watching a video. Now we're rabbis.
Zohran agrees.
And Zohran doesn't agree. No, he doesn't agree that. I don't even know what kind of accent you have there. There's something of a weird sort of thing that's happening here. There's some sort of weird thing that this dude has.
But let's get real. This isn't only about belief. It's about action.
Oh, okay.
So let's build a flourishing city.
Together.
The dude's voice really dominates.
Let's elect Zohran. Oh, Zohran!
Okay, I really want to hear that last part. Because the way the dude dominates here at the end.
This isn't only about belief. It's about action. So let's build a flourishing city.
Together. Let's elect Zohran. Oh, Zohran!
So why this is so typical of this cultural Jewish perspective that I need to remind you that I'm Jewish, which somehow makes me more significant. I have no actual understanding of what it really means to be a practicing Jew on a day-to-day basis, first and foremost because I cut off my own genitalia, or because I basically think that it's totally acceptable for a woman to be a rabbi, or you know, the level of education or understanding I actually have as to what it means to form an actual connection with God through Torah is just the most foreign thing in the world. But I really like matzah balls, and I eat latkes on every sorry, not Hanukkah. They would say Hanukkah probably. Oh, maybe that's how they pass the test. Maybe that's how they become actual rabbis. If you can actually say the sound, all of a sudden, boom, you're a rabbi. Oh, look at this! Wow. You can actually say that sound. Wow, you're totally a rabbi. You're totally a rabbi. You can give my nephew a bris. You like bagels and lox with cream cheese, so clearly you're a rabbi. So the bagel lox and cream cheese, spending a full 2 hours in temple on Yom Kippur is, now you're qualified there. These people are basically coming along and saying you need to listen to us because we're rabbis. Like, we have significance, we have importance, we have actual value here. This is like Dr. Drake Moray weighing in about like what, how the best treatment for your cancer. It's like, oh, hey, look. Get Dr. Dre to weigh in as to whether as to what the medical as to like what type of life-saving operation we should be dealing with. We get Dr. J2. We'll get a whole we'll get a whole team of doctors together. They're just going to sit there doing reconstructive surgery on you. Things will go really well then. It's that they need to tell you that they're a rabbi so that they have significance, and that's supposed to actually influence people. And I wonder if this actually works. They must think it matters, because if they must have themselves been moved by this, which means that people who run in their circles, and Lord knows that that for at least one of them, it better damn well be in the men's locker, not the women's locker, that they actually feel like, oh, this is something that moves people. This is something that people are going to respond to. And they'd be like, well, look, this rabbi said it. The rabbi said it. So now we have to tell everyone we're rabbis, and then basically do everything we can to blend in as much as possible. So no one really knows we're Jewish, because we're just like New Yorkers. We worry about typical prices. So it's, it's like we need to stick out and then tell you how we blend in. Everything about this is so gross and disgusting and awful. It's so lacking in any sort of genuinely healthy values. It's so disturbing how that the notion that this actually works on some people. And it must, because I suspect it had to have worked on them at some point when they heard someone say, well, a rabbi said it. And I understand that if you're not a practicing Jew, if you're a Reformed Jew or a conservative Jew, and you hear that, the rabbi says something, so you're not going to be looking at it with the cynical eye that a practicing Orthodox Jew would look at. I get that. But it's like, it's so twisted and convoluted to basically say that I need you to listen to me because I'm a rabbi, and then I'm going to make an entire pitch that's based on the fact that I'm just like you. When you're not really, from the perspective of anyone who practices Torah, really any kind of rabbi. You're probably like more irreligious than 98 out of 100 people that I spend time with on a day-by-day basis, if not more. But you're like, the holy rabbi, and then I'm sure you know much less than any of them. And you're sitting here as the holy rabbi, trying desperately to blend in that we're just like other New Yorkers. Well, then you shouldn't be coming out here with the whole thing. Hey, rabbi. Hey, rabbi. Hey, rabbi. It's just gets me mad. People make me mad. I don't like these people. Yeah. And then we come to the actual message, which is that Mamdani is not like a freaking lunatic. That he's not like that he's like someone who's here because he says he cares about New Yorkers. He cares about life. So what the hell is that? Which of the politicians saying they are not saying that? Like, what is happening here? Well, he says it, so that means, okay, that's totally fine. This guy never lies, right? He's never ever lied. That's the one thing we know about Mamdani, is he never lied. Right?
I want to use
He's Mr. Honesty.
this moment to speak to the Muslims of New York City. I want to speak to the memory of my aunt. Who stopped taking the subway after September 11th because she did not feel safe in her hijab. I want to use.
So the tragic life of his aunt, who stopped taking the subway because she couldn't travel on her job. That's what he told us about. But
use this moment.
That's his aunt right there. That's her. You might notice something interesting about this picture, and that's she's not wearing a hijab. She wasn't living in New York either. So this was a problem for him. A lot of people were talking about this. So it's not like he's ever lied before. No. He's told us this is what these rabbis want you to understand. That's what they're like. Look, he's told us that he cares about everyone having like a chance to thrive. So clearly, he's the best person for it. Let's talk about his plans here. Should we cover? Should we cover how he had a response for that? He had a response for that. This was his response when he was called out on that. This was his response. You recently had it's hard to hear the question. You recently had an address about Islamophobia. And you referenced an aunt. And you said that post 9/11, she couldn't wear her hijab. Is that a blood relative? Is it?
Yes, I was speaking about my aunt.
I was speaking about my aunt.
Speaking about Zerafui.
Zerafui.
My father's cousin.
My father's cousin? That's not an aunt. Your father's cousin's not an aunt. No one calls that an aunt. Your father's cousin.
He passed away a few years ago. And for the takeaway from my more than 10-minute address about Islamophobia in this race and in this city to be the question of my aunt tells you everything about Andrew Cuomo and his inability to reckon with a crisis of his own.
Oh, so we just got that's what you take away, that the fact that I'm a big fat stinking liar. If that's what your takeaway, that tells you everything wrong with Andrew Cuomo. If that's what your takeaway is, that you actually care about, honesty. That's the takeaway over here. She's the real victim. She's the real victim, Not this guy. This guy's not the real victim. No, his aunt. His aunt can get on a train. Not the actual Islamists, the fundamentalist Muslims who actually made this guy, in case you're too young to appreciate this, this is a picture of a man jumping from the intense heat at the top of the World Trade Center. This was a viral picture back before there was a word for viral. So Mamdani wants to remind this guy, the real victim of 9/11 was his aunt, who could no longer wear her hijab on the subway on account of the Islamophobia that resulted from that event. Evidently, many people came to the conclusion Muslims did this in the name of Allah. It's so strange. It's so strange. Right? Unbelievable. Or this clip here of the response to Mamdani. I'm going to come back to the trans thing. Don't worry. We're going to come back to that trans guy. I'm not done. We're going to come back to those rabbis. Well, more rabbis.
This is to Mamdani and all the other people in New York that are losing their minds voting for him. I don't know what happened to you kids. I grew up in Queens, and it was a different era then. All Italians and Greeks and Hispanics and wonderful people, Indians and everybody. Everybody was there, but they were conservatives. They understood this country much better than you kids are. The people that are following Mamdani and AOC and whatever, the Bernie and the other people, you're Marxist communists. You're going to bury New York. New York's going to become a rat-infested, crime-ridden shithole.
Yep.
You want to talk about things? Mamdani, you want to talk about an aunt? My Aunt Annie. She was 57 years old on September 11th. She went to have a little birthday get-together that the office was giving her at the World Trade Center that day. Her kids were saying, "Mom, stay home, it's your birthday." She says, "Oh, they want to give me a party, I've got to go in." She left. She said, "I'll be back in a few hours." She never came back. She's in the rubble there. My Aunt Annie, Riccaboni, Davi. All right? She's in the rubble there because of you, Mamdani. That's right, because of whoever it was that blew up the World Trade Center. And you're
I don't think it's Mamdani's fault.
worried about your aunt getting a dirty look? What bullshit is that? A dirty look. A dirty look. I get dirty looks all fucking day. Big fucking deal, Mamdani. A dirty look and you start to cry. Oh, my dirty look, my aunt. You're an actor. Your mother's a director. You're a phony. You're a plant to move the communist Marxist agenda forward. And you're a liar. And the other thing I want to say is, look, about this lockdown and Schumer and Schiff and Pelosi and look at Johnson, you're a great guy as Speaker of the House. You're very dignified, but please, you got to unlock your jaw. You talk like this and you say this here, and the lockdown is a Schumer lockdown, and it's happening like this. And what's happening is this is the 27th day of the lockdown, and you remind me of a teacher I had one time that had this lockjaw. Get some passion. You want to get kids going? You want to get people inspired to call up their congressman? You've got to open your jaw. You've got to get some fighters in there in the GOP. Otherwise, you sound like a bunch of phonies that don't have the passion, that don't have the upsetness. Look at Bernie, as sick as his fucking ideas are. That guy's got passion. He reaches the youth. You guys, the only guy that reached the youth was Charlie Kirk and Trump. The rest of you fall straight down. You don't go through the camera. You don't go through. You don't reach the hearts and minds and souls and inspire the emotions. You have to have intellect and emotion to move people, not just thinking because it's a bore. You're just speaking to the same group of friggin' people that hear you, and it's a drone. You need new people talking about the Schumer lockdown. These guys are locking it down. They're taking money and food and healthcare out of your pockets, out of your lives.
So there you go. There you go. That was his rant. Yeah. But I don't want to. He's getting a little on and on about the lockdowns there. I agree with him that too many politicians on the right don't have any sort of real passion when they're talking. They sound like they're really just useless. They sound boring. They're putting people to sleep. This is the problem, that as far as they've got no riz. I'm gonna try to use that word in every stream from now on. I'm gonna try to use that word every freaking stream now. I mentioned it to my daughter that this came up on the show. That whole riz thing. And I was like, I don't even know what the word comes from. And she had never heard it before. She's like 30. She had never heard it before. And she was like, maybe charisma? And I was like, I think that's probably right. I'm not looking it up. I refuse. I will not. Okay, let me run through some of a bunch of chats came in, so I got to run through these before I get back to the whole rabbi thing. Technically, she biologically can be a rabbi. That's what I said. Yes. He. Yeah. To be fair, the dude in lipstick more qualifies to be an actual rabbi than the actual women. You probably all said this before I did. I look at them and search for the barf bag. Hashtag not my rabbi. They are crazy. Yeah. I come here for growth, Joe, not torture. I'm sorry, Dick. Little women will be the end of us. Actually, a lady who marries a gay man is a beard. No, I see. Yeah, I see what you did there, Drop. That low voice rabbi is a trans woman. Joe. You think? How many Jews want to live under Sharia law? Apparently, a whole bunch of them. They don't believe that's going to happen. They believe that will not happen. It's the new Jewish diaspora. You can do better. I'm a high priest in the order of diggers. Trust me, bro. It's because they can't stand to see men content with their existence. I bet they have hyphenated last names. Oh, you heard my rant on that one. Joe, it's amazing how you grew the channel. The Reconstructionist synagogue here in Eugene, Oregon hates Israel and had a trans man bar mitzvah in July. Oh my God. Oh my God. It's like holding a peace rally with machine guns. Psalm 118. It's better to trust in the Lord than put confidence in a man. It's better to trust the Lord than to put confidence in princes. The women rabbis of Mamdani are atheists. Yes. We actually incorporate this particular section of Psalm in our, we say this at least once a month, this Psalm. Part of our prayer services on the new month. Is a prayer called Hallel, which has a whole bunch of different psalms. And this psalm is incorporated there. Joe, look up Vince Ellis' show. He has recording from the Democrat governor in 1975, 1987, talking about how they can destroy America. Okay. We're getting into the socialism part of it. I wanted to see if I can get this thing. Okay. I'm gonna get into the socialism part of it in a minute, but Jim came through for me. Because before I move on from the whole rabbi thing, I do want to talk to you about another video that Jim shared with me. He actually was he was respectful enough. He was like concerned for me that he was going to bring something up on the air, and he didn't bring it up on the show. He said, I didn't want to come in sideways at you by giving you this video, where he had questions about this video where a rabbi from the East End Temple was making all these different statements, which, that's he had questions about whether it's what he was saying was true. And 6 seconds into the video, so the first thing I told him is never worry about that. You seriously can ask me any question about Torah on the air, and I will tell you what it says. And I'm not going to be embarrassed by it because everything that's in there is true. So, and if someone says something that he's claiming is in the name of Torah, I'll point out to you the parts that are accurate and the parts that may be, that Torah views as being inaccurate. Some people are better sources, some people are worse. Okay. So he shared this video with me, and in case you've seen it, you may have, you may not have, I don't know, but I'm going to share it with you, and I'm going to tell you everything about what this guy says and what parts of it have accuracy and what parts of it are inaccurate. This is another rabbi, a rabbi from a temple. We Orthodox Jews go to synagogue. There's no such thing as an Orthodox temple. You might have heard both terms, synagogue and temple. You wonder why they have both. Well, the difference is that Orthodox Jews go to pray in synagogue. Reform introduced the concept of temple. We would never call the areas we call in Jewish and in Yiddish, we would say they call it shul, and that's the most common term. We'll say go to shul for places that we meet to pray or study sometimes, or for lectures in Judaism. But Reform introduced the concept of temple. We Orthodox Jews recognize that the last temple was destroyed 2,000 years ago, and that's where there were sacrifices brought to God, and that we haven't had that since the year 69 or 70 in the Common Era. So we would never ever refer to a place where we meet as a temple. Like that would be disrespectful. They purposefully choose the name temple. So if you ever see someone speaking and they're a rabbi of a temple, understand this. They are almost certainly confused about Judaism. And they're likely to be very liberal. And you're likely going to be seeing a clip of them. So this is even if it's a male rabbi, as this clip I'm going to show you over here is a male rabbi, and from the East End Temple. And as soon as I saw East End Temple, I was like, okay, so this he probably knows something. It's not like they spend zero time studying, but he's likely going to get things wrong because there's a lot of stuff they just don't know. So they it's like what you end up seeing is a great deal of Dunning-Kruger, which any Orthodox Jew or 9 out of 10 Orthodox Jews would look at and say, this part's right, that part's wrong. And I'm certainly well enough qualified to do that. So this comes from Kai Balian. I don't know how many times this has been seen 198 times. More people watching it, about to watch it right now than have seen this video on this guy's thing. Rabbi Joshua Stanton openly talks about genociding white people by bringing in Muslims. Hint, we are the Amalek to these Jewish supremacists. I'm going to explain to you what this video is because I think you should know.
In America today, we have white supremacy. In the Torah, we had Amalek.
I got that far in. And I was like, okay, I see everything that he's talking about. I'm going to explain to you what he's talking about. And no, just no, 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 no. That was my reaction when I was sitting with Jim. I was like, no, no. It's true that in the Torah, they talk about Amalek. American Jews tend to say Amalek, but a technically accurate term is Amalek. Well, I'm going to refer to it as Amalek just because that's how all my friends would say it. So, what is Amalek? What is that? Talking about white nationalists and Amalek. So I want to explain to you what he's saying. And 5 seconds into this, I was like, I knew exactly where he was going to go during the next minute and 40 seconds, and he delivers perfectly on that. I'm going to tell you right now, Amalek has nothing to do with white nationalism, nothing to do with racism. Not really. Not really. But I'm going to let you hear what he says, and I'm going to tell you before I play the rest of this, everything that the entire point he's trying to make is a work of fiction. Nothing he's saying here is actually reflected in Torah.
Amalek is seen as the eternal enemy of our people.
That's true.
These members found strength by making us suffer. Therefore, when the Lord your God grants you...
The numbers didn't find strength by making us suffer. That's not what Amalek came from. No, that's not true. That's made up.
...safety from all your enemies around you, and the land that the Lord your God is giving to you as a hereditary portion, you shall blot out the memory of Amalek from under heaven.
This was blotted out from everywhere.
Do not forget.
That's true. We actually have a commandment not to forget that it's incumbent upon us to obliterate Amalek. You need to understand what Amalek is, though, and it's not white nationalism.
Our rabbinic sages parse these sentences and derive...
It's not even racism.
...two distinct meanings. Blotting out the memory of Amalek is a military command, literally to destroy Amalek.
That's true.
Now facing today's Amalek.
Which applies when Jews are actually are operating. This now comes in the concept of during messianic times, but okay.
We are reminded that the Torah calls us not just to escape, but to extirpate Amalek.
Okay. Not now. That would be and certainly not here in America. But
we are commanded to do real and literal battle against it. That means coming off the bench in the fight against white supremacy.
No, it does not. No, it doesn't. It's got nothing to do with white supremacy. So at this point, you pretty much get where he's going here, that there's an obligation to wipe out white supremacy. And he sounds like militarily.
Means putting our reputations and our money and our physical bodies on the line. But also so that we are ready to answer people with radically destructive and incoherent versions of history. So that we can counter white supremacists. So that we can counter Amalek.
Okay, you're an idiot. Sorry, you are. Okay, so let me explain to you what Amalek is, so you can understand, which is when the Jews crossed the Red Sea, the whole miraculous crossing the Red Sea, right? That whole thing, escaping Egypt, going out into the desert, crossing the Red Sea. So they were shortly thereafter attacked by a race of people called Amalek. The significance of that attack was largely in its timing and objective. The timing and objective are why it is that that God made it incumbent upon Jews to wipe out Amalek. You'll see if you read through the prophets, how in the book of Kings 1, Saul marches out to wipe out Amalek. I think around chapter 14, 15, around there. King Saul was the first king of the Jews. So note, by the way, the Jews were in control of Israel at that point for quite some time, hundreds of years. And the first time it came up that there was a commandment by the prophets to go wipe out Amalek was actually when there was a king, not a prime minister, not control of Israel, and it's not supposed to be from America, but like under the reign of a king. That Samuel told Saul, go out and wipe out Amalek. Who's Amalek? What's the deal with this Amalek thing? What makes them, from a Jewish perspective, so terrible, so uniquely terrible? Because there's no one else who we actually have that type of level of animus for, that we hear God expressing that type of animus for. So Amalek was actually the name of an individual. If you're familiar with your Bible class and you study Genesis, you will see that you have the patriarchs. The first of the patriarchs is Abraham. The next one, his son, he has two sons, Isaac and Ishmael. Ishmael later becomes the progenitor of Arabs. So the Arabs all look at Ishmael as their great-great-grandfather and Abraham as their great-great-grandfather. And we agree with them. That's true. It's actually that they're our cousins in that sense, in that we come from Isaac. Isaac also had two sons, twins. The older was Esau. The younger was Jacob. We come from Jacob. Jacob and Esau had bitter feud with each other. Now, Esau had a son named Eliphaz, and Eliphaz had a son named Amalek. So Amalek, the original Amalek individual, is a grandson of Esau. Esau was like this mighty warrior. He was very into the best allegory as far as what you can think of. You think of, like, your Roman gladiators type of thing. Esau was supposed to be like the most feared warrior on the planet, and Amalek, as I understand it, was similarly adept. Probably not Esau levels, but that he was also, that was what he was about. But conceptually, Amalek denied the existence of God. Amalek, because he ends up having many, many children, Amalek, and that becomes a race of people called Amalek. That's what Amalek is. When the Jews are saved by God from Pharaoh, and you have the 10 plagues, and they cross the Red Sea, and they have all those miracles that happen. Shortly thereafter, they're attacked by this race of people called Amalek. This was shocking in the sense that the Jews were, at this point, internationally known. The entire world became aware of like these crazy miracles that God was performing on behalf of the Jews. And there was sort of like this aura where it's like, whoa, you don't mess with the Jews. And that's why I said the timing was significant. That it was that the attack on the Jews at that particular time was considered a particular affront, like that they were displaying a complete lack of fear of God. Because here it is, there's open, crazy level miracles. I mean, crazy miracles with 10 plagues and everything, and the splitting of the sea, which they say was an internationally known thing. That when the sea split, everyone knew about it. And they said, and that, this God is basically fighting on behalf to protect the Jews. And Amalek says, we don't care. We want to fight God. That is what Amalek is. Now, later on, when you look historically as to what happens and God actually writes in the Torah that there's a incumbent upon us to wipe out Amalek. Why? Why would it be incumbent upon us to wipe out Amalek? Well, it could be that it's referring to the race of people, or it could be it's referring to the ideology of atheism, meaning a complete and utter rejection of the existence of God. I wouldn't even say like your garden variety atheist. I mean, because in those times, the level of dedication people had to their ideology was infinitely more powerful than what we see in modern times today. So someone who's rejecting God then is like, no, they basically be like, I am positive. Like they would like basically be willing to, be put to death, with, bank everything on the lack of existence of God. So that type of level of atheism, that's what Amalek represents. Now, if you understand that God gives us a purpose, you might have heard a reference to Jews being the chosen people. What does that mean when we say Jews are the chosen people? Well, one of the most significant factors of what it means is that it's incumbent upon us to basically bring God into this world, to basically remind the world about the existence of God and the significance and the fact that he created the world and he's running the world, and that he's actually monitoring what's happening, and that what you do matters. And to conduct ourselves as emissaries in ways that are healthy, in ways that are inspiring better values, and are reflective of being God's people. That's our job. That comes with the DNA. So what is the antithesis of that? Exact antithesis of someone or people whose mission is to bring God into this world is people who are dedicated towards eradicating the notion that God exists and that everything comes by chance, by fate, and things that have nothing to do with God, that there is no God. So when we are commanded to wipe out, to remember what Amalek did to us and to wipe them out, the two most common ways of understanding that commandment are that it literally refers to a race of people who were largely wiped out by Saul, but he actually left the king of Amalek alive, and one of his descendants is Haman, who comes up centuries later and tries to kill all the Jews. And it may literally be a race of people of which we have no idea which race it is. Or it could be the ideology of devout atheism. There is absolutely no way that the Torah is interpretable to say that Amalek is white nationalism. Why would someone say something like that? The reason they would say something like that is because this person has an agenda. I don't know what his agenda is. I mean, you can take a guess what his agenda is, but he has an agenda that he basically wants to inspire his flock into believing that white nationalism is something that God hates and it's their duty to wipe out, which is, in my perspective, a complete perversion of what Torah actually is saying. So that's why I'm calling this out to you. So is this something Jews believe? No. I've never heard anyone be audacious enough to make the claim that Amalek equals white nationalism. And if you actually understand what Amalek is, which I question whether this individual does, you would understand how silly the notion is. Because the one thing you can say a lot of things about white nationalists, but certainly American white nationalists tend to be pretty religious people. So no, you're wrong. That's what I got for you on that. Questions? I wanted to break that down because I understand that people come across stuff, and you probably don't know many religious Jews who like understand what he's saying and what part's accurate, what part's inaccurate. So that's why when I see stuff like that of people who are misleading others about what Torah says, I feel like I'm doing my part to bring God into this world to clarify. I'm correct. So there you go. I'm going to come back to this because this is something you remember earlier. Dick Parker was here earlier, and he asked me a question. One of the first questions I got here was, Joe, did you see my chat? It was on this. This is what he shared with me. This thing that you're asking me about. So I'm going to try to do that before I get out of here. That's how I feel about Episcopalian pastors. Glad I'm a Baptist. The requirement for pastor is the husband of one wife and father to his children. The requirement for pastor is the husband of one wife and father to his children. Interesting. Guarantee these women can't even control the weather. Losers. I'm a Jew by choice. I studied for years. I could not bring myself to sully the title of rabbi by using it on those humans. Rabbis are revered members of communities and can influence generations. Yeah. Like I said, my father is a rabbi. My father studied for the rabbinate, and and he became a rabbi. He did it much later than most people did it. He did it after I got married. Like, he wanted to study and become a rabbi. And he continually is pressing me to do it. He would love it if I did it. He would really love it. And I sort of feel like intimidated, that the title is too much for me. Maybe Noel the drunken Moel snipped that baritone. Maybe. Why do we call current citizens of Israel Israelis, but if we're talking about citizens of Israel in biblical times, we say Israelites? I don't. That's a good question. They were called B'nai. The Hebrew term is B'nai Yisrael. B'nai is plural. Ben means son. B'nai is plural for sons. And Yisrael becomes Israel. Yisrael was Jacob's alternate name. Jacob, after he fights Esau's angel, he gets a second name from God, or the angel, actually, technically, via the angel, which is the name Israel, which basically is a contraction of the words like right with God. So that, unlike the name Abram, which once it becomes Abraham, they're not supposed to change between, and it has to, when we refer to him, we'll accept as being a young man, we'll always refer to him as Abraham. But the name Jacob and Israel are both used for Jacob afterwards. And his 12 sons, who each became the different tribes, they are all called the children of Israel. And the Torah refers to them as B'nai Yisrael. So that's the term. So how that in English becomes Israelites, I guess, I don't know. And why that's different, because I guess now they're looked at as people of the state of Israel as opposed to being children of Israel. So maybe that's why it's Israelis. Also, many Israelis are not Jews. So I guess in that sense, the distinction is helpful. There are many Arab Israelis, many Israelis who have nothing to do with Jewish faith, many Christians. So perhaps that's the purpose of the distinction, is to say that you can be a citizen of the state of Israel without being an Israelite. So, good question. Is it common for a rabbi to say the Lord your God instead of the Lord our God? I can't answer that question, because any rabbi who I would listen to and respect would say all this in Hebrew. So, and in Hebrew, we would never even say our God. In fact, we would even say the Lord. When we reference God, we use the word Hashem, which, because part of the Ten Commandments is we're not supposed to say his name in vain. So accordingly, we say Hashem, which it's spelled out Hashem, which technically means the name. So we just refer to Hashem as being a reference to God. So when I would hear a rabbi who I respect speaking, they would just say, when Hashem is giving Abraham this test, but it wouldn't say Abraham, it'd say Avram, and much more Hebrew and Yiddish would be laced in there. So I can't really speak to that. It sounds, when I hear people talking like that, when I hear rabbis talking like the way this rabbi is talking, it sounds very Christian to me, because it's lacking that Hebrew part to it. It sounds very, very, it sounds very Christian to me. It sounds very foreign for like being like a Jewish perspective. But I understand that probably for most non-Orthodox Jews, it sounds very typical. Amalek, these nuts got him. What? Amalek. Oh. Start at 5:10, Joe. Yes. See, you're still here. I will. Genesis 3:16 to 19. God does not take lightly sin. Oh, you're talking about that's when they ate from the tree. Well, this is true. This is true. Joe, make sure chat the ghetto before you end. Oh, God bless you. Thank you. I should have looked there a while ago. I haven't been there in a while. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Uzelian was looking for my attention in there. Joe, while not being his fault, he's hanging with one of the OG bombers. Some balls. So this has to have been. This has to be reference to when I had the rabbis up there. There's female rabbis or whatever. Joe, Jamaica has so much riz, it's getting a category 5 women being brought to it. Is it really? Is it really? Poor Jamaica. Those Caribbean countries have their problems. All right. I mentioned to you that he's a socialist. This is what Dick Parker shared with me. It also was brought up by Kimberly Johnson. Sorry, Kimberly Campbell brought this up. It's a little long. Should I do this on locals? Let's do it on locals. Let's do it on locals. We're going to do it on locals. That's what we're going to do. I'm going to do it on locals. Because I'm already 2:15 in here. And I feel guilty that I haven't done locals in a while. So that's what I'm going to do. Let me set up locals really quick. That's what I should have done. This is There's two things I'm going to share with you on locals. And you guys are really going to like this. I'm going to create the link here, just so you're on the same page here. There's two different things I'm going to be covering here. Wait, maybe three? Really two. It's really two. Set my timer on this. Schedule the stream to happen 10 minutes from now. And there you go. Please correct the errors below. I want at least 10 minutes. Oh, okay. Schedule for 10 minutes from now. So I'm scheduling this for 2 a.m. local time. Okay. Schedule. I'm calling this stream Socialist Muslims and Destroying America. I'm going to include a link here. I'm going to put it in the description, and I'm also going to throw it in the chat for you guys to get on in here. What I'm going to be talking about during the course of this show is, number one, I'm going to have a video of a Muslim who's talking about how Muslims basically hate America and why they love liberals. Number two is an explanation as to how socialism and democracy are opposites, and it's impossible for there to be such a thing as a democratic socialist. There's no such thing. It's literally impossible because they are such opposite ideas. And the third thing is something that others in the chat have been asking me about, which is this is a video which I think was on Mark Levin, which was basically supposedly a deceased, so no longer alive, but he's a former governor, I think of Colorado, who in a speech was talking about how he hates America and plans to destroy America and 8 steps that he plans on using. And it seems as if we've done like 7.5 of these steps to destroy America. So that's what this locals after party is. Locals after. I'm going to put links in both Rumble and YouTube. I'm going to urge you to come check it out because there's a lot there which you guys really need to know. I'll also put it in the description for those of you who are watching afterwards because why wouldn't I do that? I like you people too. Not everyone's up at 3 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock. Pin message. Let me put it in the ghetto. Right now it's pinned in both chats. And I have to put in the description. I don't know how to put it in. Can I put it in If you can't afford it, just let me know and I'll give you a free code. Everyone comes free if they can't afford it. Seriously. You can get in there free. You can sign up for free. But I urge you to check out goodlogic.locals.com. This is a lot of information, particularly the stuff about Democrats and socialists, which is like it's something that I had never even thought of myself. And I saw this woman explaining and I was like, wow, this woman's smart. And she's right. She's right. And it's an important breakdown on that. Plus that video, that audio, if it's true, which if it's not doctored, which I have no reason to assume it is doctored, and the claim it's been out there for a while. So it's pretty freaking scary. It's pretty freaking scary. So that's what's happening now. That's what we're gonna do. You guys see it there, right? Let me see it. It's not right. Yeah, that was back in Genesis chapter 3. I know, but everyone gets very confused about this stuff. I should do all my locals just teaching you guys like what's actually happening in Genesis and Exodus. That's what I should do. I'm giving like a course as to like what's actually happening when you read it. Because so much of it you guys get confused. So much of it you guys have wrong. Like, for example, it wasn't an apple. Oh, what? What? It wasn't? No, it wasn't. But that's for another day. That's not for today. That is not for today. Anyway, compare and contrast Gibeon and Palestine. I'm not even sure I don't know what that is. Gibeon? Gideon? I'm not sure what you're even talking about. All right. You know what they say? Lab meat, definitely not meant for you. It's meant for them. They, them. So you don't want any of that. Join me over on Locals. You want to be there. Goodlawgic.locals.com. Link is pinned in the chat. Link is in the description. It's not really in the description over there in the ghetto. But yeah, you should be flooding on over there now because this is going to be a really good, cool show. So make sure you guys check it out. That's goodlogic.locals.com. Those of you who see there, awesome. Those who I won't see there, don't need some bugs. Have a good night, everyone, and Godspeed.